All right, click the links to join the channel here or on Subscribestar. So this Frosk news caught up, which I feel kind of exemplifies a lot of what's going on. Even if you don't care about like Frosk or G4 TV or pop culture, anything in general, it's just one facet of this culture war, which is part of something much bigger, which is why I'm like the pop culture channels on YouTube. I think it's just a business for a lot of these people, but a lot of them, and I know this sounds weird, like I think they're doing good stuff. Anyone who's in the top 10 of pop culture on YouTube is carrying this message that it's okay to lampoon these people and make fun of these people as much as possible. Anyway, so this thing came up in the Odyssey playlist. I was watching the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which sounds tangentially related, but it's Susan Sarandon, if I remember right, who looked like $1 million in 1975. And that in itself, the movie was also a really good movie. Probably risque for 1975. There's some edgy scenes on there. So Frosk is I should probably go to the tweet. Someone in the comments this morning said that they felt that the tide was starting to turn, and I felt like the pendulum, when a pendulum swings back, it has to stop, right? And it's that one fractional second as it slows down, and just for that one infinitesimal period of time, the tangent is zero and it stops and time seems to freeze. And then it reminds me of that book, Cornelius Ryan's Bridge Too Far, which had that one terrifying scene where the people are walking through the town, they think they're retreating, and then they decide that no, they're going to fight the battle in the town. And that moment of horror when you realize there's going to be a war fought in your town, and just absolute nightmare of what went from like a group of sharks swimming away from you, and then all of a sudden starting to circle back and realize, oh, you're really in for it. So Frosky's a deeply weird individual, there's a lot of deeply weird individuals. You meet them every day, and unfortunately you have to put up with, what was that book, Putting Up with Assholes or something? That's not the issue. But the issue is like, well, who hired her? Who possibly, after talking to her, like sitting down to try to like touch base with her and figure out where you're going to put her, talking to her for like a half hour or whatever for that, kind of interviewing her. How do you think, oh yeah, this is a perfect fit? She's just she's the missing piece of the puzzle. She's really going to attract then you put an adjective in there for part of the audience. She's really going to attract this blank part of the audience. And you think like, yeah, so who's she attracting? Well, she's so knowledgeable. Oh, wait, she's not really knowledgeable. Well, she doesn't even write, is knowledgeable a word? Probably not. She doesn't even write the reviews. She just reads them. Oh, she's eye candy. She's just really attractive. She's got a good personality. Oh, she's none of those things. Oh, well, she's really funny. She's not that either. So like, why'd you hire her? You're selling to a male audience. You went from hot chicks in bikinis to this. Like, none of that makes sense. I mean, this isn't me with a Kindle, for $100 investment. This is a huge Comcast, if I remember right. There's a lot of money flowing around in there. Like, they have something to lose if they get kicked off the air. They've got hundreds of thousands of dollars flowing in and out of there. It wasn't just like 4 people working on it. I assumed all the people who were in front of the camera were also behind the camera. I mean, like, I thought they were writing and editing. I thought they were doing everything. And it turns out, like, no, there's a huge crew behind that. And you look at the channel numbers, like, none of this is making sense. You would need millions of followers more, and also heavy amount of watch time. So that's the issue, is she's weird. She's a total weirdo. Like, you can see that from 30,000 feet. So what does it say about everyone who hired her, who met with her, made the decision, like, she's just what we need? This is a male audience, that? It's a male audience from between, I don't know what age group, but it's male. Like, they're into eye candy, and they're also into, learning about something, infotainment in a humorous way. But it also really helps if someone is either funny, personable, or eye candy. And it helps to be a little bit of all three. And you look at her and like, so she's the exact opposite. I mean, not to be politically incorrect, but like, ultimately you're selling a product. The product is everyone on the show. So who made the decision? That's the real story. If somebody knew somebody behind the scene at Comcast or G4 and said like, so who was pulling the strings on these, like Sessler and Frost, because they both had weird Sessler even had, I think, had a weirder reputation than she did. It's like, how do you decide to get these people on board and think like, oh yeah, this is exactly what we need to sell widgets. So she's melting down over some two celebrities who most people like quite a bit. Even Gina Carano. There's some SJWs who are against her, but majority of people like Gina Carano because she seems like a real sweetheart. And Henry Cavill, people really like him too, and they like the characters he plays. Um, so for the he played Witcher, sorry, and then Superman. But he keeps a low profile on social media, which is probably the smarter position. But the thing is, you can only keep a low profile if you're already a fairly good sized celebrity, because everyone who's below a certain level is using social media to sell themselves. Like you are your own agent in that regard. But I mean, if you're on, my God, if you're on social media, like I don't get a lot of these people who have their politics on their sleeve, and it's like they're totally willing to alienate anyone right of center, right of Stalin, and they're just like this purity spiral. And I think to myself, like, you're not, Susan Sarandon, who's retired, but if you're like in the prime of being a Hollywood type of person, why would you want to alienate so many people? That just seems weird to me. But that's when you're so deep in an echo chamber. You think, oh, everyone's on board. There's just like a small group of these, these far right extremists. It's like, yeah, that's not a. I mean, well, one, that's a straw man, but like that's not a small group, because the people you're calling, oh, you mean like a third of the country? Yeah, we don't need them anyway. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, how well did that work out for G4? But to be fair, first of all, G4 was not going to be successful anyway. That was a really an uphill battle, unless they caught fire. And you look at her and Sessler, and it's like, yeah, it would have been possible. I mean, anything's possible for a show to catch fire, absolutely, to blow up. Yeah, it would have been possible, but not with the people they had. And that's the reason I made the video, because it shows the schism between how they think and how we normal people think. The idea that you would disrespect your audience in any way whatsoever, especially when you're not just one person, you're working with a team of probably 24 people. I had no idea how top heavy this thing was, but it's not just the G4, it's the Comcast, and you're working, there's a lot of people involved here. So if you screw up, if you got a lot of other people that you're connected to that are going down with you, and she's just not. I just don't think she's wired right. But neither is Sessler. And then it turns out, like, well, how do all these people who seem like they're I don't know, borderline personality disorder, like, how do they all get together, and who's pulling the strings on that? That's the bizarre. All this stuff is bizarre. So it's inconceivable to me to think that the way that you would disrespect your audience or speak to them that way, when she gave her little her little speech on feminism, that wasn't off the cuff. She wouldn't just, there's no friggin' way that was off the cuff. It met with, almost had to have been met with approval, just so you could kind of like mark out the time that they would take to give that speech and make sure that everyone's facial reactions was on board with it. So like the whole thing, just feels kind of fake and lighthearted and frivolous. So the hubris of that thing kind of caught my attention. How do you insult the people who literally pay you? I read the chats, well, that's probably your first mistake. If you know that you're going to be triggered by the chats, then you do not need to read the chat. Let other people with a little thicker skin. I'm not as bangable. Yeah, okay, well, let's begs the question, then why are you on the show? If apparently you don't write the material, you don't know the material, you're not bangable, you're aggressive and you're abrasive, and you're not funny. It's like, so what do you bring to the show? That's, seems like a question that if you were in the hiring position, you would ask. And like, how hard is it to just be nice and not insult the people who literally give you and your co-hosts and the dozen people associated with you literally pay you? How do they think the show works? Watching her little speech on feminism to her own audience, what did she think was going to happen? These people pay your salary. It's like she was juggling sharp knives naked or something. Like, yeah, there's a certain risk in that. So did she destroy G4 TV? She helped quite a bit, and so did Sessler, and so did everyone else who didn't. I don't know what you're expected to say, like, oh, I totally disagree with you. It's like, well, they're going to destroy you for that. So you don't want to be a sacrificial lamb. Like, soon as she said that, you just kind of know, like, oh, well, I thought the show was going to go for a year, and now I realize, or a couple of years, now you realize, like, yeah, this is we're in trouble. And indeed you were in trouble immediately after that point. It's like just accelerated the decline. And it's kind of the wrong show for 2022. I mean, it's way too top heavy. It needed like 4 people to do everything, to set up cameras on tripods, which very well you can do. And but it's like it would be 4 people doing the thing full time. 4 people who are funny, who can edit, who they know the games, they can do the research. Like 4 very full time people who are trying to make this thing work. And you probably could have made it work, but it's got to be the 4 people who are not political. Like yes, you can complete. Do not wear your politics on your sleeve, and that includes social media across all social media platforms. People should know, like, oh yeah, these are lefties, but they're not hitting you over the head with it, because most of these people are lefties. Or if it was me, it's like I'm a righty in some regards. It's like I would just leave all that baggage at home and just give people what they want. And you gotta like your audience. In all sincerity, I have the utmost respect for everyone who gives this channel a view. The idea that you would think differently just blows my tits off. This channel is only a hobby. It wasn't even monetized for the first year or something. But how do you insult people who are literally giving you their time? The whole thing is insane, which is why everyone is laughing at her now, and she absolutely deserves it. Definitely parody, lampoon these people, mock them as much as possible, because Sessler he's another effing weirdo, very thin skin, chip on his shoulder. And anyone who's looking at these people like, oh yeah, we're gonna get this show together. Let me just scroll through your Twitter history. Holy shit, you've got Trump derangement syndrome. It appears to be a terminal case, sir. Yeah, so why don't you just move on to someone who I would talk to them like, hey, listen, can you guys put Twitter down for 2 years? We're gonna do this show, and I need you to abandon all social media for 2 years. There's probably a lot of people, loosely, and I call this stuff all Hollywood, but there's probably a fair amount of them who would be like, no, I can't do that. I'm addicted to. Well, you can just do it anonymously. Just get an anonymous account. You don't need to use your blue checkmarked account. Yeah, but if I made tweets without the blue check mark, no one would pay attention to me, because they don't have a whole lot to say. Like if Frosk didn't have that blue check mark and she's just some anonymous account, she would have been on there for years and had like 12 followers. She'd be one of those accounts that everyone laughs at because they get so little interaction. So yeah, absolutely mock all these people. Her and Sessler are poison for any organization, but the disrespect she showed the audience, and everyone else showed the audience, and the lack of anyone else who was sitting on that panel of saying, and like, no, I guess you couldn't have said anything at the time, but I mean, so I'm assuming it was pre-approved, so that meant, like, if I was on the show and be like, oh, I'm just gonna, how about I just I sit out this segment, you guys like just have like the people who are really on board with this kind of thing. Anyway, so the whole thing feels like the pushback you're seeing on Twitter, it feels like a little bit of a tide turning in the culture war. People are really tired of celebrity sized egos. People just want a show. They want entertainment, or they want information, or like the quartering does. It's or a lot. Most everyone on YouTube is blending infotainment with a narrative, with also a piece of the culture war. Like more and more more and more things are kind of delving into the culture war. The other kind of part of it is the different vibe on Twitter. There's such an obvious different standard for Disney when they fire. Oh, I should probably go to that tweet. When they fired Gina Carano, people like Gina a lot. And no, the tweets aren't exactly the same, but they're in the same ballpark. There's nothing she did to get this kind of public insult from Disney. And I don't know the first thing about Gina Carano, but I went at the time all this stuff happened. What, last year? I went to, or no, 2 years ago when the Mandalorian was on. Maybe it was 2 years ago. I went through her Twitter. I read all the things she had. She had one tweet that was interesting: the red ants and the black ants tweet. And I would love to ask, like, look her in the eye and ask her about that tweet and see. She seems like a reasonable, rational person to me, maybe a little bit naive, but also it could be that the naivety is a bit tongue-in-cheek. Like she might be playing a game of chess while everyone else thinks that she's playing checkers. You're purposely kind of disingenuous, or purposely playing a little cute. I just can't. I don't know enough about her other than she seems adorable and sweet and a reasonable adult. Like she feels like when she enters the room that you have to be on your best behavior, because she's adult. At least that's her presentation on social media, that this is an intelligent adult you're dealing with, who's not going to behave like like perpetual PMS of Sessler and Frosk. Like it's not exactly too much information, which is a phrase that usually means like of a prurient interest type of thing. Too much like social displays of I don't know, kissing in public, I guess, something like that. It's not that. It's like these people put their bleeding heart, their politics on way on display, like every little thing, and they're putting it's like too much emotional baggage on social media with a bunch of strangers. Too much emotional information, not like sexual information would probably like you wouldn't even catch your attention anymore, but it's like it's too much psychic energy. And there's people who don't do that, people who just come across as just rational, calm, reasonable. Not me. I'm a total troll on Twitter, which is I keep burning through accounts. But I'm also not I'm not anyone. Like these are people who are making shows and stuff. So she didn't deserve to get fired for saying that roughly it's not a good idea to dehumanize and disenfranchise people who happen to be the right of Mao or Stalin. If they value diversity, then eventually people are going to have to be honest and go, that includes diversity of thought. And if you don't agree with that, you're just saying that you're the totalitarian, the authoritarians who want to censor, deplatform, and control. It's like, yeah, that's what the left, and this is obviously is a left versus right issue, and that's what the left is now. Like in the past 30 years, I'm old enough to have watched the left transform into something they would have claimed to have hated 30 years ago, where they would have been fiercely on the side of free speech. Like that would have been a hill for the left to die on. And you look at them now, and all of a sudden they're talking about, oh, no. Now that we're gaining power, we need to start censoring speech. Oh. So are you guys always corrupt? Did you, or like, was there a core of corruption, or did you get corrupted? I've heard it both ways, but I'm also, it's like the phrase you see, if you see, there's some good cops and bad cops. Yeah, but the truth of that is, if you see someone doing something evil and you don't step up and you have a duty of care, a legal duty imposed on you by society, by the state, to interfere and stop somebody from under color of authority violating somebody's constitutional rights, then if there's a circle of you, then it's all bad cops if you're not stopping that. And that kind of feels like what's going on right now. Anyway, so Twitter is giving everyone a chance to politely explain to these petty tyrants that it's time for them just to eat a bag of dicks, because people are just tired of the tide, the bridge too far. I don't know how many other metaphors I can come up with. Those are similes or analogies. I honestly have no idea. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Check out the subscribe star, and I'll see you guys all next episode.